What's good? Cole's Boxing Corner. Welcome back to CBC. Man, we got an interesting topic today for y'all, man. So we're going to talk about the welterweight division with Spence versus Crawford. I know. A lot of people was tired of hearing about the two, but it's the biggest fight in boxing as the two welterweights look to settle their differences with an undisputed match. So we have Errol Spence, who is currently the WBC, WBA, and the IBF champion, versus Terence Crawford, who holds the WBO title. So Spence, 32 years old, 28-0, 22 big knockouts, southpaw with a 72-inch arm reach. He's 5'10", versus Terence Crawford, who is 34 years old, 38-0, 29 knockouts. That's huge. He's a switch hitter, 74-inch arm reach. That's amazing. He's a shorter fighter, but he has a longer arm. He stands at 5'7". So there's two things that in this video that I want to point out. Just one, the negotiations and how that's going, and something that I notice about Terence Crawford. I'm a huge fan of both fighters. I've been on the record by saying Terence Crawford is definitely pound for pound number one. And Errol Spence, to me, is up there. I think Errol Spence is a better welterweight than Terence Crawford. He holds 3 belts, but he just fought the better competition in the group. But anyway, so it looks like negotiations between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Bud Crawford has begun. And I think there will be a lot of give and take in this situation. Perfect example of this is, one, where the fight is going to take place. So, Errol Spence is clearly the A side, right? So, but Terence Crawford is not having it. But Terence Crawford recently stated on the Porter's Way, which is Sean Porter's podcast, he said that the fight needs to be on neutral grounds. And we taking the fight to Vegas. I don't know where it's gonna be, but it looks like he's standing firm on that. Terence Crawford looks to be like a hardhead. He just wants things to go how he wants it to go. But I hope that it doesn't stand in the way of the negotiation. So he said that it needs to be on mutual grounds and it needs to be in Vegas. And he further stated that he doesn't even want to hear anything about Dallas, and that Errol Spence and Jermell Charlo is not from Dallas. He said that on the Porter Way, right? They're not from Dallas. He said Errol Spence is from New York. Well, we all know Errol Spence is from New York. But again, he reps Dallas. That's where he grew up. He spent most of his childhood, his time in Dallas. So naturally, you're going to rep the place where you are more familiar with and the place where you spend most of your time. So there were talks of before, of course, everyone know of a 70-30 split and a 60-40 split, but that was more so on Errol Spence's side, and it would be in favor of Errol Spence. But Bud, again, wasn't going for that. He kept saying that it has to be 50-50. Now, I heard that Errol Spence signed the contract and it was a lowball offer. I'm not sure how true that is, but that's what was being reported. But I also heard on the other hand, Terence Crawford is looking for Mayweather type numbers. I don't see that happening either. Terence Crawford, he's usually getting, I believe, 2 or 3 million, maybe 5 with all in, with the back end and all that, with Top Rank. But I don't see him getting more than that because he doesn't even sell the fight. So Errol Spence right now is the boxing cash cow. Canelo numbers just came out the other day versus Bivol, and I believe they only sold like 300,000 pay-per-views. Errol Spence did that on his first pay-per-view fight, I believe, against Mikey Garcia. So, Errol Spence has been proving that he can be a huge pay-per-view star, and he is. So it's neck and neck with the numbers between Canelo and Errol Spence right now. So, but regardless of what, both fighters said that they were willing to make the fight happen, and that's why I said that there's going to be a lot of give and take with this one, because we have both parties standing firm. But again, like I said, they both said that they want to make the fight happen, and I think that they will, man. Now, during the interview with Sean Porter, right, Terence Crawford said, after I beat Spence, I'm moving up to 150 to fight Jermell Charlo if he stays for undisputed. and that there's 2 people on his hit list, right? So now that statement had me thinking, right. So it seemed like Terence Crawford is waiting for his opponents to get to like undisputed or have a unification before he goes hard to target them to get a match. Now, I know a lot of you guys are gonna say, no, that's not true, but think about it for a second. Now, here's a few reasons why I thought about this, right? So mind you, I could be wrong. Like I said, it's just my opinion, guys. It's just my opinion. But Terence Crawford has been calling out Errol Spence for a while now, all right? We all know that. But it was the media who actually pushed that agenda from the beginning, not Crawford. The media was the one who was, when Crawford was at 140, when he was at junior welterweight, and he made moves and made statements that he was coming up. You know, everyone in the media was saying, oh, this fight will be good versus Spence versus Crawford, you know, champion against champion. And I believe at the time, Spence had the IBF. So, you know, it was the media who was pushing that agenda. So, like I said, when Crawford was at 140 and became undisputed, he could have petitioned to fight Spence when he was moving up to 147 at welterweight. Think about that one. He really could have petitioned, I'll say it again, to fight Spence at 147, but he didn't. So, you know, Crawford went on to fight Jeff Horn, I believe, and that's how he won the WBO welterweight belt. So, you know, he chose to fight Jeff Horn. He could have petitioned to fight Spence. So why didn't he take the Spence fight? Like, why didn't he go hard after Spence then? Here's another kicker. So Bo Mack, right? Terence Crawford's trainer. He admitted, I forgot where I saw this, but it was an interview that he did. And his trainer admitted that they took the easy route by fighting Jeff Horn. Secondly, when there were talks about this side on the street, you know, Errol Spence always say, I'm going to clean up my side of the street and that side of the street and then get to you, right? When there were talks about this side of the street and that the fight won't happen because Bud is signed to Bob Arum with Top Rank. When Terence Crawford contract was up the first time, he then resigns to Bob Arum. So if I was Crawford and I'm hearing, all right, I'm with the wrong side of the street and I wasn't getting the fights, the big fights, I think that he was just happy you know, again, I could be wrong. He was just fighting lower level competition at that time, you know, waiting it out. He didn't have to re-sign with Bob Arum after all the complaints. But now, you know, why would you re-sign a Top Rank if you weren't getting all the big fights? So now Spence has 3 belts, right? So now that Bud is not with Top Rank anymore, we hopefully gonna get to see this matchup, which is the biggest fight in boxing today. We all know that's the biggest fight that could be made right now. I don't think it won't be bigger than Pacquiao Mayweather in the sense of numbers, but in terms of boxing and both men in their prime and matching skill to skill and just going back and forth, I think this is the biggest fight in boxing, right? So now it looks like Crawford is also targeting Jermell Charlo at 154. Again, on the Porter's way, right? Crawford said he has 2 names on his hit list, which is Spence and Charlo. So Crawford started calling out Jermell when he was unified. And then he turned the heat up once he became undisputed. You know, that fight versus Charlo versus Castano. I believe and here's something to think about. What if Castano were to win? Would he then switch gears and went after Castano? Because again, if he beats Errol Spence, he'll be undisputed. So he could petition the fight. When he move up in weight, he could fight the champion, right? So, I mean, to sum things up, man, it just seems like as if Bud just isn't willing to put in, you know, the road to become undisputed, it looks like is a lot easier for him. Not in terms of him just demolishing top level fighters, but just him just fighting lower level competition and then going for the big fish, right? No pun intended. But he's just going for the big fish at the end of it all, right? And it seems like that's the same thing he's doing with Jermell. Now he's undisputed at junior middleweight, right, at 154. Now he's going after him. That would be something, though, if Terence Crawford were to pull that off. I think he would probably be the smartest boxer ever, man, to become undisputed in 3 different weight classes. That would be history right there in itself. So, I mean, like I said, to sum things up, man, I think that he's just laying back and, you know, looking comfortable just fighting these guys. And, you know, of course, he's going to say nobody wanted to fight. But they could have made fights, you know. You know this whole mess with Bob Arum that's going on back and forth with the lawsuit. But he didn't have to re-sign with them back then when, you know, his contract was up at the time. We could have killed all that noise. I'm not saying anyone is ducking, you know, but, you know, it is what it is. They took the easy route. They fought Jeff Horn, and then now look at the names that he fought at welterweight. The only big name that was worth saying anything was Shawn Porter, but Shawn Porter was on his way out anyway, so he was done with boxing. You know, after Spence was done with him, he just wasn't the same anyway. So, and Amir Khan, oh man, give me a break. I think my you know what, let me not even say that. I respect all fighters, but, you know, Amir Khan has a glass chin. We all know that. And Jeff Horn, these guys, and Kell Brook, after 2 broken orbital bones, one from Triple G and the other from Spence. I mean, Kell Brook was just done anyway, so he's finished. He didn't really fight anybody, so now he wants to go after Jermell, which is gonna be tough, man. And it's funny because Jermell is like, why you coming after me? You better go fight Spence, and you can't even pass him, you know. But we'll see what's going on. Again, like I said, I could be wrong. It's just my opinion. It's just something that I noticed, and I decided to just make a report on it. But what do you guys think? Do you think that I have a point, or do you think I'm just all the way wrong? You think I'm fishing? Let me know, man. Who has the toughest fight at welterweight, Spence or Crawford? Now be real. You know, who do you have going anyway? Like, what's your pick, Spence or Crawford? My prediction is Spence by decision, and here's why. So, number one, I think Bud starts out slow, and I think he typically starts out at the orthodox stance, and I guess that's his way of trying to figure out the fighter. But I think he's stronger at southpaw, right? But anyway, he starts out slow, and with that pressure that Spence bring, you can't afford to start out slow. So in the beginning, I think Spence is gonna rack up them points, unless he ultimately knocks Spence out. But I don't think either fighter is gonna get knocked out in this fight. Again, this is just my opinion, my prediction. So Spence put the pressure on his opponents. Like I said, man, Spence comes to fight. So Bud starts out slow. That wouldn't be a good thing for him. Second, Spence's work rate is just unbelievable. Spence, yo, he's like a machine, yo. Like, he just keeps going. Like, he keeps coming at you. And lastly, Spence is just, I think he's just too big and strong for Crawford. You know, they say a great big man would always beat a great little man. And not always true, but that's typically the motto, right? But I don't know. I just think that Spence is just naturally just a bigger guy. He walks around at like 170, you know, and with Crawford moving all the way from 130, where he started, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be interesting to see how he goes against that strength and that power that Spence bringing, that work rate, because he just keep going. And some people say, well, you know, Crawford is a switch hitter, but why is he switching? You know, what is switching is going to do? What is him switching stance going to do in that fight? You know, so, you know, I'll leave it up to you guys, man. What do you think, man? Put your comments below, like, comment, and subscribe. I love you guys. Thank you guys for showing me all the love. You guys been emailing me, hitting me up on Instagram. I love it, man. Share your thoughts and comments. Who do you have? Spence versus Crawford. Who's the favorite? You know, let me know what you think. I just gave my prediction. Leave your comments below. Cole's Boxing Corner, CBC. Peace out.